She still doesn't suspect a thing. 7 words that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. It was a chilly winter night in December 2023 in the quiet suburbs of Austin, Texas. I woke up to an empty side of the bed. The sheets were still warm. He hadn't been gone long. At first, I thought Nathan had just gone to the bathroom, or maybe grabbed a glass of water. But then, I heard it. A whisper. His voice, low and deliberate, drifted down the hallway. I couldn't make out the words at first, but something about the tone, soft, secretive, made my skin crawl. I got up, barefoot, my steps silent on the hardwood floor. A sliver of moonlight cut across the living room, casting long, cold shadows. I followed the voice, moving slowly, carefully. And then I heard it, clear as day. She still doesn't suspect a thing. My breath caught in my throat. That wasn't a business call. That wasn't harmless. That was a man plotting something. And I was the target. I froze, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Who was he talking to? What didn't he want me to suspect? I turned back, moving quickly and quietly, slipping under the covers just before he came back into the room. When the mattress dipped under his weight, I kept my breathing steady, my face calm. Nathan sighed, slow, relaxed, like everything was perfectly normal. But I knew better. That night, I didn't sleep. That night, I became someone else. Someone who would no longer ignore the whispers in the dark. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with lipstick on a collar, but with a $500 withdrawal that no one can explain. The next morning, while Nathan was still snoring lightly in bed, I slipped out and padded barefoot to the kitchen. The silence in the house felt heavier than usual, like the walls were holding a secret I was about to uncover. I poured myself a cup of coffee, hands trembling slightly as I unlocked my phone. I never checked our finances. That was always Nathan's job, his domain. But today, something felt off, and I needed answers. I opened our joint bank account, the screen loaded, and my stomach dropped. $480, $1,100, $765, $2,000. Dozens of transactions, small enough to fly under the radar, but frequent enough to send a chill down my spine. No notes, no explanations. Not rent, not groceries, not anything we ever talked about. I swallowed hard. My breath caught. This wasn't random. This was orchestrated. That's when I heard the footsteps. Nathan appeared in the doorway, rubbing the sleep from his eyes with a lazy smile. "You're up early." I quickly locked my phone, masking my panic with a half smile. "Yeah, just checking something." He walked over and kissed my forehead, like everything was fine, like he wasn't hiding a damn thing. But I knew better. And for the first time, I knew where to start looking. He didn't ask me. He handed me a pen and expected me to sign away everything. That night, Nathan was unusually relaxed. He ordered takeout, rare for a man who prided himself on his grilling, and poured us both a glass of wine. We sat across from each other in the living room. The vibe? Almost too calm. "I was thinking," he said, swirling his wine, "maybe it's time we organized our finances. You know, just in case of emergencies." I blinked. "What kind of emergencies?" He chuckled, brushing it off like it was nothing. "You know, natural disasters, accidents, life stuff. We should both have access to everything. Accounts, passwords, assets. Full transparency." Coming from anyone else, it might have sounded thoughtful, but I had seen the bank activity, the whispers, the lies. So when he pulled out a folder and handed it to me, I didn't reach for it right away. But eventually, I opened it. Property transfer agreement. 3 words that punched me in the chest. I flipped to the final page. My savings account, my investments, even the condo under my name, all listed, all scheduled to transfer into Nathan's ownership. "It's just for protection," he said smoothly, like it was the most casual thing in the world. I looked up at him, and I smiled, the kind of smile that comes right before a war starts. He thought he was being clever. He had no idea I was already 5 moves ahead. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room is a single text message. I didn't sign. I placed the stack of legal documents back on the coffee table, slow and steady, like every sheet was a loaded weapon. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice calm. Too calm. Nathan gave me that practice smile, not surprised. But his eyes, they shifted, calculating. That night, he played it cool, made a drink, laughed at the TV, sat beside me on the couch like we were just any other married couple. I didn't laugh. I watched. Then it happened. Nathan stood up to take a shower. He left his phone, face down like always, on the table. But this time, it buzzed. A message lit up the screen. Ilya Moore. Just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost there. My blood went cold. That wasn't business. That wasn't a misdial. That was a plan. And I wasn't in on it. Who the hell was Ilya Moore? And why was she so sure I was still blind? I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. That preview said it all. I put the phone back exactly where it was. Wiped my hands on my jeans, even though they weren't sweating yet. A few minutes later, Nathan came back, toweling his hair. Decide on dinner yet? I nodded. But inside, I had already decided on something else. I was going to find out everything, and I wasn't going to wait until he was ready to tell me. He didn't ask for a divorce. He declared it, like the ink had been dry for weeks. The next morning, Nathan was already up, sitting in the living room with a cup of coffee, scrolling his phone like it was just another Wednesday. But when I walked in, he looked up, and I saw it in his eyes. Something was coming. We need to talk, he said flatly. I sat down, every muscle in my body locked and ready. Sure. He sighed like he was carrying some heavy burden. I think we should separate. This marriage, it's just not working anymore. No emotion, no hesitation, no remorse. It wasn't a conversation. It was a verdict. I didn't blink, just stared at the man I thought I knew. You've been planning this, haven't you? A twitch in his jaw, a flicker in his smile. We've grown apart, Jess. You know that. I kept my voice steady. What exactly do you want? Half? The assets, the condo, retirement, and spousal support. I almost laughed. The man who never cared about my income was now demanding I pay him to leave? This wasn't just betrayal. This was a hostile takeover, and I wasn't going down without a fight. He thought he was playing chess. What he didn't know, I flipped the board weeks ago. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just looked Nathan dead in the eyes, calm as ever. He thought he'd stunned me. Divorce, assets, support, his so-called power move. But I'd seen it coming. I already moved all my assets into a trust, I said, voice steady, 3 weeks ago. He froze. A flicker of panic cracked through his carefully composed expression. What? Savings? Stocks? The condo. None of it's in my name anymore, and definitely not in ours. He blinked twice. The wheels in his head were turning fast, trying to calculate just how badly he'd underestimated me. You can't do that. I smiled, this time not out of politeness, but satisfaction. I did. Long before you filed. Long before you even knew I knew. That was the moment the mask slipped. The confidence in his posture wilted just a little. His grip on the mug tightened. He had spent months planning this attack, and I had already disarmed him before he even reached for the trigger. For the first time in this game, I was the one holding the board. He couldn't get my money, so he came for my name. But what he didn't realize, I don't go down quietly. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, that I'd pulled the rug out from under Nathan with the trust, he found another angle. He couldn't touch my bank accounts anymore. So now, he came for my reputation. It started with the looks. The kind of stares that last a second too long. Conversations that died the moment I walked into the room. Coworkers suddenly too busy for lunch. Then came Rachel, my assistant, closing the door behind her, her face tight with worry. Jessica, I think you need to hear this. I didn't move. There's a rumor going around. People are saying you embezzled funds, that you're involved in some kind of money laundering. My blood went cold. Not because I was shocked he'd do it, but because I knew exactly how far Nathan was willing to go. Is it coming from him? I asked, already knowing the answer. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. He's been talking to people, lawyers, mutual friends. He's painting you as someone hiding assets through shady means. I clenched my jaw, rage simmering just beneath my skin. He failed to win in court, failed to take my assets. Now he wanted to take my career, my credibility. But Nathan underestimated me. Again, this wasn't a scandal. This was war. And I was done letting him choose the battlefield. If Nathan wanted a war of words, fine, but I wasn't going to fight with whispers. I came armed with lawyers. I walked into Patricia's office with fire in my chest and steel in my spine. No more second guessing. No more hoping he'd stop on his own. Patricia, sharp as ever, already had a binder open and waiting. She looked up as I dropped a stack of printed screenshots on her desk. Emails, texts, gossip threads. He's dragging my name through the dirt, I said flatly. I want it to stop. Now. She flipped through the evidence and smirked. Desperate men make sloppy mistakes. She closed the folder and leaned back. Calm, precise, lethal. Here's what we're going to do. We send him a cease and desist, if he doesn't stop. We sue, I finished for her. My voice didn't shake. For defamation, reputation damage, emotional distress, and oh yes, financial restitution. I nodded slowly. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was strategic. Nathan had chosen to weaponize lies. I was going to answer with the law and hit him where it hurts most. When a man can't win clean, he'll try to bleed you dry. Time, money, energy. But I don't break. I counter. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone lit up. Patricia, no small talk. He's pulling another move. I braced myself. What now? Nathan just filed a motion for a full forensic audit of your finances. He's accusing you of hiding assets before the divorce. I stared at the kitchen counter. Silent. Not stunned. Just angry. This wasn't about truth. This was about attrition. Drag it out. Wear me down. Drown me in paperwork and legal fees until I tapped out. But he forgot one thing. I don't tap out. I took a slow breath. He's not trying to win. He's trying to exhaust me. Patricia's voice turned razor sharp. And he doesn't realize who he's dealing with. She continued, calm and deadly. We'll counterfile. Immediate motion to dismiss. And if the court sees this for what it is, a stalling tactic, he'll be ordered to cover all your legal expenses. I smiled, not out of joy, but clarity. Let's fight. He thought court was his battlefield. He didn't know it'd become the place his plan died. Publicly. 2 weeks later, I sat upright in the courtroom across from the man who once shared my bed, now clinging to a strategy he barely understood. Nathan wore his best suit, but the tension in his jaw gave him away. His lawyer rose first. Your Honor, my client believes Mrs. Keller transferred assets prior to the divorce in an attempt to conceal them. We're requesting a full forensic audit of her finances dating back 6 months. I didn't flinch. Patricia stood beside me, composed and lethal. All financial activity took place before Mr. Keller filed for divorce. There's no evidence of misconduct. She pushed a thick binder forward. We move to dismiss this motion entirely, and we request Mr. Keller be held responsible for all legal fees, as this is a clear abusive process. The room fell still. Nathan turned to look at me, expecting nerves, fear, anything he could read as weakness. I gave him nothing. The judge flipped through the documents, page after page, then looked up. Their voice was final. The court finds no grounds for financial misconduct. The motion for audit is denied. Furthermore, Mr. Keller will be responsible for all legal fees associated with this baseless motion. Gavel strike. And just like that, his entire playbook collapsed in front of a judge. When they can't beat you with the truth, they'll forge a lie so convincing it could bury you. Unless you know where to look. I thought we were done. Then Patricia called. Early, sharp, urgent. Jessica, we've got a problem. A big one. My heart skipped. What now? Nathan and Ilya just filed a claim accusing you of financial fraud. They submitted documents, forged but incredibly sophisticated. They want the court to open a criminal investigation. I sat down hard at the kitchen table. The air thickened. This wasn't a smear campaign. This was prison-level serious. If those fake documents held up, I could lose everything, not just assets, but freedom. Are they real, I asked, even though I already knew. Not even close, Patricia said, but they're polished. Professional. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. She paused. Luckily, Beatrice caught something. A detail they missed. The timestamps on the transactions, they predate the account creation dates. A crack in the glass. That was all we needed. So what now, I asked. Patricia's voice dropped, cold and steady. Now we strike back. No more defense. This time we go on the offensive. They forged the lie down to every decimal, but forgot one critical detail. Time doesn't lie. I sat in Patricia's office, flipping through the evidence Nathan and Ilya submitted. It was flawless on the surface. Fonts matched, signatures clean, watermarks legit. But then Beatrice leaned over the table and pointed to a single line. Here, she said. Look at this transaction date, February last year. I nodded slowly. Okay. That account wasn't even opened until April. Silence. The kind that says the tide just turned. I looked up at Patricia. They logged financial activity on an account that didn't even exist? Beatrice nodded. It's the crack in their masterpiece. Patricia closed the binder like she was sealing a coffin. Her voice dropped an octave. Low, lethal. This is it. Fabricated evidence, legal fraud, and defamation. I curled my hand into a fist. Not in fear, but resolve. No more defense. We take them to court, and this time, we go to bury them. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. This was about burning the lie to the ground and watching them fall with it. They thought they were predators, but now they're the ones being hunted, and I'm holding the gavel. I walked into Patricia's office not as a victim, but as a woman about to bring the storm. On the table sat a brand new folder, bold red, stamped with power. Filed complaint, defamation and legal evidence falsification, Jessica Keller versus Nathan Brooks and Ilya Moore. Patricia looked up, eyes razor sharp. We've got everything. Time-stamped discrepancies, document analysis, expert witnesses ready to testify. I nodded. Let's expose them. She smiled, not warmly, but like a woman about to go for the kill. We're not just proving your innocence. We're making them pay for weaponizing lies. The claim included malicious defamation intended to destroy reputation, submission of forged legal evidence to the court, emotional distress and professional damages to the plaintiff. I signed the document. Each letter of my name written like a nail in the coffin of their plan. He brought me to court to destroy me, but it was in that courtroom his entire lie fell apart, piece by forged piece. The courtroom was silent, tense, cold. I sat with my shoulders back, gaze forward. Across the aisle, Nathan looked pale, his tie loosened. Ilya? She didn't even lift her eyes. Patricia stood tall and unshaken. Your Honor, the documents submitted by Mr. Brooks and Ms. Moore are fabricated. The transaction dates predate the account's creation. Our forensic expert has confirmed the forgery. The expert took the stand, laying out every falsified detail with clinical precision. The room didn't move. Patricia approached the judge's bench, placing the final folder down with controlled force. We ask that the court dismiss all claims and hold the defendants responsible for all legal fees due to willful abuse of the legal system. The judge flipped through the folder, page after page, then finally looked up. Expression unreadable. The court finds no valid evidence to support the fraud claims. The documents submitted were knowingly falsified. The motion is denied. Mr. Brooks will be held liable for all legal costs. Gavel strike. And with that sound, his war ended. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like forever. Nathan didn't just lose a case. He lost everything he built on lies. He came for everything. My money, my name, my peace. In the end, he left with nothing but the sound of a slammed courtroom door. 2 days after the verdict, I sat across from Patricia with the final decree in front of me. I didn't need to read it. I already knew what it said. Still, I opened it, page by page, line by line. And every word was a reminder of what I'd fought to protect. Nathan Brooks, awarded nothing. No property, no alimony, no access, no leverage. I signed the bottom line, steady and sure. Each stroke of the pen severing the last tie to a man who tried to take everything and failed. Patricia leaned back, satisfied. You didn't just win, Jessica. You ended this on your terms. That's power. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just nodded. There was no applause, no victory music, just silence, the kind that comes when justice has been served. Nathan, he walked out of that courtroom like a man who had lost more than just a case. His name was mud, his schemes exposed, his future bankrupt. I walked out with my head high, my shoulders light for the first time in months. The war was over, and I was still standing, not just intact, but stronger than I'd ever been. Not every ending is a tragedy. Some endings are just the door finally closing, so you can breathe again. I signed the final settlement papers. No more filings, no more courtrooms, no more Nathan. I slid the folder shut and looked at Patricia. She gave a small nod. It's done, officially, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel angry. I felt free. That evening, I drove to my mother's house. The porch light was on. She opened the door with open arms like I'd returned from war. It's over? She asked softly. I smiled. Yes, for real this time. Inside, Claire and Maya were waiting. My 2 ride-or-die girls, already pouring wine, lighting candles, laughing before I even took off my coat. There was no big celebration, no flashy speech, just peace. and joy and warmth. Beatrice raised her glass. We're not toasting the end of a marriage. We're toasting the return of Jessica Keller. I clinked glasses, heart full, not because I'd won, but because I'd refused to disappear. I didn't just survive, I came back, clear, whole, and more alive than ever. I thought I was fighting to protect my assets. Turns out, I was reclaiming something far more valuable, myself. Night had settled over Austin. The skyline shimmered in warm golds and deep blues. I stood on my balcony, glass of red wine in hand, wind brushing softly against my skin. Everything was quiet, but it wasn't the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of peace. For so long, I believed if I could just protect what I'd built, the money, the condo, the investments, I'd feel safe again. But now, looking out at the glowing streets below, I knew the truth. I hadn't just reclaimed my finances. I had reclaimed my voice, my worth, and myself. I remembered the gaslighting, the doubt, the nights I stayed up wondering if I was crazy for questioning him. And yet, here I was. Not broken, not bitter, but reborn. I took a sip of wine, placed the glass down, and reached for a fresh notebook beside me. The first page. Blank. Waiting. A new story was ready to be written. And this time, I'm holding the pen. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to rise, even when no one expects you to. If you've made it this far, maybe you've been betrayed too. Maybe you've sat alone in the dark and whispered, "Am I crazy? Am I overreacting? Or worse, is this my fault?" I've been there. I believed in someone so deeply, I nearly lost myself in the process. But here's what I've learned. Strength isn't avoiding pain. It's rising through it. I'm not telling this story for sympathy. I'm telling it because I know someone out there is fighting a silent battle, and they need to hear this. You are not alone. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself from the ground up, drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And who knows? Your voice might be the one that gives someone else the strength to keep going. Thank you for walking this road with me. Stay strong, stay smart, and never ever let anyone silence who you are.